So, hi. Chuck, do you hear me now? Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So welcome to this event, the long game. So essentially what we are going to talk about is capacity building. So that's what this hub is all about. But what we will be trying to do actually to take this a step forward. And what I mean by that, well, you will be hearing a lot of statements coming out of this COP presidency, and the one that came out yesterday. So you'll be probably wondering, so where are we living, and where are we heading to? We are going to try to give you a hint of that. So how actually we are supposed to move forward. So where the action is, and how can we create this positive tipping effect, a rippling effect, if you like, to take even a step forward. The next slide, please. So we have got a wonderful lineup of speakers, not the one originally showcased on the website. Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of issues with the badges and stuffs. But nevertheless, so we got Nivedita Mani, who is from the Gorakhpur Climate Resilience Initiative in India, doing amazing work with women empowerment. We got Ellie Johnston, who is replacing Juliet Rooney Varga from UMass Lowell, working on Climate Interactive, a simulation platform that is raising awareness and self-efficacy for action at scale. We got Hossein Hassani, representing the International Institute for Advancement of Advanced Technologies, IAAI, who is also the lead scientist in this institute and one of the top 1% scientists in the world. Basically is trying to how to harness the power of AI and digital technology to make that action at scale happen. And finally, we got Sergey from CEO of Bing Pong. And when I say Bing Pong, it doesn't tell much to you, but I think Sergey will explain what that is. But that's actually a real on-the-ground example. So how this digital technology can actually take and make that action at scale. So it's wonderful to have you all here. And so I'm going to get started. The next slide, please. And I actually plan to say something different, but after hearing the statement yesterday, I thought that I start with a story. That's actually my story. So I was born and grew up in Bangladesh until 2010 when I left for Europe, unfortunately. And I was born in a very middle-class family, struggling every life. But nevertheless, the life I had back then actually was really sustainable. And no fossil fuel actually was used in our daily life. So our family couldn't afford a car. The transport was, this rickshaw, they call this, human-drawn three-wheelers, or the public transport. There was hardly meat on our plate, red meat, as we call. That was mostly fish and vegetables. And we were having a healthy life, healthy relationship with the biosphere, spending time with the nature, playing outside and others. So when I hear something like this, like phasing out fossil fuel means that we are going to go back to the Stone Age, in the Cave Age, I become very, very critical. And why I'm telling this story in a capacity building hub, and what does it have to do anything with education? Well, pretty much everything. Because when I went through this system of education, I realized that actually is the fallacy of this current education system that's putting this mindset from the very early childhood, actually teaching us how to extract from the biosphere, this corporate behavior of extraction and destruction, where we are heading to. That's putting the seed, saying that fossil fuel is the only way to move forward. And phasing that out means going back to the cave. So if you want to start transformation, we need to start with education. And that's why we are here. And that's why all these people actually are on the stage as well, because they are doing it. And what we are trying to do, actually to showcase that in these platforms like this. The next slide, please. And that's why we kicked off the long game during the last COP27. Actually, so what we are trying to do is to consolidate these activities, these capacity building activities, empowerment activities, through education, through gamification, harnessing the power of digital technology, and actually making an impact on the ground, empowering communities and creating action at scale, creating this positive tipping, this self-reinforcing positive feedback in the change that would take us forward. So we are going to listen to some of them we are happy to have. So I'm going to start with Nivedita, who is working for the Gorakhpur Environmental Action Group, and she will tell us how actually their community is empowering women and creating action at scale. Nivedita.
Thanks, Avit. The slides will be there. The next slide, please. Okay. Oh, that's a bit of a challenge. Maybe it is there in the advanced slides. Maybe after this it is there. No. No. Okay.
One more.
So that's okay, no problem. So my name is Nivedita, and thank you so much, Dr. Avit, for this opportunity to speak here at the Capacity Building Hub. I come from India. The name of the organization is Gorakhpur Environmental Action Group. We are based in the northern part of India. This is a 48-year-old organization established in 1975. And we work with local communities, rural and urban both, in the space of climate change, resilience, disaster risk reduction, sustainable livelihood, sustainable development, water sanitation, gender, and all of that. So the main forte is on climate resilience and disaster risk reduction. And we are very actively working on how do we integrate these two things in sustainable development planning and implementation. A development, if it doesn't take cognizance of the climate change aspects, the data, the information, the way world is changing, it's not going to be actually a resilient development. I am very glad that we have this capacity building hub, I think, which was established in one of the earlier COPs, if I remember correctly. And I think in all my experience of working in the development sector almost 21 years now, what I feel is that capacity building is the crux for any achievement, for anything. It is the crux. Whether we talk about capacity building of the local communities, or we talk about the subnational officials and the government departments, or at the state level, or even at the national level. This whole subject of climate change and disaster risk reduction is relatively new. It's only 15, 20 years old. And still, in my country at least, I can say this, that the capacities at the local level when I say, I mean at the district level or at the sub-district level, is very, very low when we talk about climate change adaptation or disaster risk reduction or terminologies like that. So, and in fact, people also fear out when they hear about climate change, because they think that it's only all about the 2-degree rise or the 3-degree rise and the glaciers melting and all of that. While that is true in its own sense, but we also need to look at what are the local impacts of climate change on you and me, or on the local communities, on the local farmers who are working in their crop fields and so on. So that kind of, we need to take the, the cognizance of local climate change impacts and then build capacities so that they can build resilience in the long run. We do a lot of activities when it comes to capacity building. We work with, one is we work in the climate resilient agriculture space. We work directly with the farmers, mostly with the women farmers, and ours is a flood affected area. We also work in the drought prone region of northern India. And we have established knowledge hubs at the village level, which are basically very participatory knowledge hubs wherein farmers come together, they co-create solutions to the local impacts of climate change that they are facing, and we synergize this whole traditional wisdom with the science and technological information and data and things like that. So it's actually co-creating solutions and co-creating technological innovations in the field that can help farmers in the long run. For instance, a very small example that I would like to cite here is that we all know that agriculture sector is very weather dependent, and farmers don't get the local weather information on a regular basis, or many times it's not even an authentic information. So what we do is that we source the data from the Indian Meteorological Department of Government of India, we downscale it to the district level or the block at the sub-district level, we send out the weather agro advisories through SMS-based mobile applications to the farmers. So a farmer knows that tomorrow if it's going to rain heavily in his or her area, then they will not irrigate the crops, and hence they save on the input costs in agriculture as well. Or if they know that the wind velocity is going to be high, then they will not sprinkle fertilizers or manure in their crops, otherwise the wind will wash it off all. So these kind of small little initiatives that can help the local farmers at the local level to take informed decision in cropping and farming has helped the farmers to save on their input costs, thereby increasing the overall profits in agriculture. We do a lot of work with youths also, let me say this year, and we have been, after the COVID session, we have been designing a lot of e-learning modules for youth and children, adolescent children also on climate change and DRR. They are going to be our future, and we need to inform them, we need to train them on these kind of aspects and sensitize them, because climate change is impacting all the foundational aspects of children who are going, be it education, be it health, be it water sanitation, be it their nutrition, or even their whole physical well-being and the social well-being. So that's also very important. We work very closely with UNICEF and Save the Children-like organizations, where we engage with children, adolescents, and youths and train them on climate change-related aspects. Another level, and I'll stop here after this, is the capacity building for the government level. That's also very important in a country like India. So we engage with the State Institute of Rural Development, which is a training institution established in every state in India. We engage with them, we collaborate with them. We have designed several training modules and rolled out training programs, capacity building programs, like the training of trainers, 5-day or 3-day or even 1 day, to train them how climate change integration is important in development, actually. So be it the village development plans, be it the city development plans that are being formulated, we train the government officials also how they should take into cognizance the local climate change impacts, and then try to build resilience of the local communities. The policies and the frameworks and instruments are all in place. India has a National Disaster Management Plan, India has a National Action Plan on climate change, state action plans on climate change, district level plans on climate change and disasters and everything. But the problem is of the capacity, how those things, need to be demystified, need to trickle down to the lowest level so the communities can benefit from it. That is very important. And in all of this, capacity building, training, and orientation plays a major role. I'll stop here, I think, because the time is short, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Nivedita. Thank you, Nivedita. As long as we are staying in the storytelling and this hearing from the global south, so I'm going to just showcase a fascinating work that Shoyong, the first logo, is doing in Bangladesh in a capacity building in terms of eliminating gender discrimination. They're supporting women. So the first video, please.
By the impacts of climate change, despite contributing to only 0.4% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Bangladesh is the 7th most climate vulnerable country according to the 2021 Global Climate Risk Index. Almost 33% of the Bangladesh labor force are women, majority of whom are in the rural areas. Due to regressive social norms, assigned stereotypical roles, and lack of access to resources, women are disproportionately affected by climate change. Shoyong is a volunteer-based non-profit organization working in Bangladesh since June 2020. We are a storytelling platform aiming to dismantle social injustices one story at a time. We, at Shoyong, believe climate actions are more effective when it addresses the needs of all, especially those who face the most barriers. We need to bring people to the table who have been typically ignored during planning and decision-making. This is why Shoyong is delighted to collaborate with the Long Game to foster community-based, globally connected, intersectional, rights-based, innovative, and equitable climate action solutions to Bangladesh. Devising gender-responsive adaptation is the only way to ensure a climate-resilient Bangladesh. Bangladesh, the phenomenon.
Thank you. So from there to Bangladesh, now we are going to UMass Lowell, but they are actually working on climate interactive across the world. And what they are doing, I think Yeli is going to tell more. So they have developed something that's the simulation platform. So basically, creating the self-efficacy of decision making. And Yeli is going to take us through an interactive session where you are going to participate. And so, hand over to you.
All right, and then can you share my screen with the meet? Great. All right, hi everyone. My name is Ellie Johnston. I'm the Director of Engagement at Climate Interactive. And we'll work with that. And so what we do at Climate Interactive, we work with UMass Lowell and other universities around the world, as well as many other partners, NGOs, governments, media agencies, and we create tools. The one you're looking at here is called En-ROADS. It's a climate solutions simulator. It's freely available online. You can go to enroads.org and find it and use it yourself. And we provide it to everyone so that you all can make scenarios to see what it takes to stay under 2 degrees, to achieve 1.5 degrees. What is that suite of solutions that is necessary for achieving these global goals? The simulator itself is global, and we have people around the world using it. So we have 716 En-ROADS climate ambassadors, which have gone through our training program and use the simulator out in their communities, with their organizations, with their companies, in a lot of different settings. To date, we have had almost 10,000 events worldwide in almost every country using the simulator, and that ranges from classrooms on up to boardrooms. So I want to ask you all, so you all are going to have to participate a little bit here, to engage a little bit, and let's see what we can do. Can we make a scenario? And what we're looking at here on the screen, on the left, you're looking at a graph of global sources of primary energy from the year 2000 all the way out to 2100. Each of those colored wedges represents a different type of energy. So coal is at the bottom, then in red, oil, then in blue, natural gas, then renewables in green, and then at the top we have bioenergy in a very slim line representing nuclear energy. We know that many of these energy sources, namely the fossil fuels, are huge drivers of greenhouse gas emissions. That's our second graph on the right there, again going from the year 2000 out to 2100, emissions rising steadily in what we call our baseline scenario. So this is a scenario in which we are looking at the policies, the actions, the investments that have happened to date, and saying, okay, that's our starting point for which to build on for further actions. We're not assuming additional action. That's where all of the different sliders at the bottom come into play. And that's where you all come in as well. When you all think about what is necessary to address climate change, just let's get a couple different ideas. Like, what's the very first thing that pops to mind? Just call it out. Renewables, back of the room. Stop oil and gas. And Avit mentioned too the comments that we heard yesterday from the COP president, where he was questioning this idea too of the necessity of phasing out fossil fuels. And for us in the scientific and modeling community, we are not happy with those remarks because it isn't reflective of what we see as essential to achieving 1.5. And I know many others have said that as well since those comments have come out. So let's explore. The very first thing I heard was renewables. So what if we have more renewables? One thing to know is that we are already assuming renewables grows. You see that green wedge growing more and more. What if we make renewables even cheaper? And this is the power of this tool. It's interactive. So we just move this slider here, and it gets bigger. The renewables wedge goes up, greenhouse gas emissions come down some, and we see the global temperature outcome in 2100 going from 3.3 degrees down to 3.1. Then the next proposal there was, how about phasing out oil and gas? So this is right at the heart of these negotiations these weeks, is what about phasing out fossil fuels? And with this tool, there's a number of mechanisms that we can educate people with and say, okay, well, how do you want to go about that? Well, we could tax those different fossil fuels individually. We could implement a carbon price in which it would put a price on the emissions that those different energy sources release, or we could just go directly to it and say, what if we stop investment in new, say, oil infrastructure? And this is where I go under the settings. There's so much more that I don't have time to share with you here. But what if we say, reduce new oil infrastructure? So that here in 2023, we start a trajectory towards where we have 100% phase out in new oil infrastructure. We're not building new oil extraction facilities, we're not building new pipelines, and we're not building new refineries. And so with that, you see there was a big change where we saw that wedge of renewables getting much larger, that oil wedge, which is red, getting much smaller, and as well, temperature coming down some, and we see that renewables, that emissions coming down as well. I'll just do it very quickly for gas because we just have a short amount of time here. Reduce new gas infrastructure. What if I did the same? And of course, these are very dramatic actions. And as we think about implementing anything, we also need to think about some of the equity considerations. How do we implement these policies in a way that is fair and just? We're looking at things from the global level. And some of the remarks about kind of that local orientation being important is essential. And that's where I really encourage people when they use this tool to start here and then open up the conversation, hear from the audience. If I had time, I would ask you all to share some of what that looks like in their community, or what are those things that are most relevant to how these solutions can get implemented. But we start at the global level because that's the world we have. So that brings us to 2.9 degrees. We haven't done anything about coal so far. Let's phase that out as well. Reduce new coal infrastructure. That brings us down towards 2.5 degrees. Now, we're still some ways away from staying below 2 degrees. We have to address methane and the other gases. We have to address land use emissions, a number of those other different dimensions. But this gives you a look at the power of something like this to just freely kind of have a dialogue with the audience, you all providing input. We test it out, we explore. The tool itself is grounded in the best available science. We have rigorously compared the results of this to the results of other modeling tools out there. The integrated assessment models are used in the IPCC reports, for example, and we are always looking at how do the assumptions, the baseline scenario, the results that we see in En-ROADS stack up against theirs. So that way we are complementing these kind of more not necessarily complex, but more disaggregated tools that enable looking at all the different regions and a number of different variables there. So that's just a quick look at En-ROADS. Again, like I said, you can go to enroads.org, find it yourself, utilize it. I'm happy to talk and share more examples. One of my favorite ways in which we use this tool is when we have like 2.5 to 3.5 hours and we run a role-playing game. So the topic of this conversation also had the word gamification around it and education. And we will divide an audience up into different groups and ask them to play different stakeholders representing sort of a mock UN setting. And then they'll make a scenario collectively in the tool and then take it home as a way to learn what does it feel like to be trying to represent the interests of our conventional energy sources, our fossil fuels and others. What is it like to be a climate activist and all of those kinds of things? Anyways, thank you all so much. Happy to share more later.
Thank you, Ellie. So we are really proud to have Climate Interactive as a partner of the long game, and you see the power of simulation, how you can engage people into self-efficacy. So I'm going to invite Hussein now. So he's going to take this a little forward because he is the expert on artificial intelligence, and he will tell us how can we engage citizens even more through the use of artificial intelligence and digital technology. Hussein, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you, and thank you, the panelists, for sharing their view. Before I delve into their work that we are doing, part of European challenges mapping, I would like to comment on the previous presentation as well. As my friends mentioned, I'm a scientist, and I'm teaching at universities as well. And part of this today discussion is capacity building. To me, majority of the problem that we have, because we didn't, the previous perhaps teacher or parent didn't educate us enough to prepare us for the future. As we know, the youth, they are future leader. The first day that I'm in university, I'm teaching, I would say to them, you are very important for me, and I would like to teach you very well because my tomorrow life is at your hand. One of you could be doctor, one of you could be teacher, one of you could be university professor, one of you, that's my son or my children would be under your hand. So that's quite important. To me, capacity building now, we need to go to 5 or 6 years rather than children, rather than youth. Because youth, this capacity building is already, their mind has been embedded with whatever we have. Therefore, we need to go one step backward. To go to the 5 or 6 years, the curriculum needs to be changed. And in AI, I propose several aspects, particularly now on AI ethics, that could be and should be go to children and 5th or 6th year curriculum now, and I'm advocating for that. And hopefully I will be successful as well for that. And back to the scenario generation, at the same time, I'm a data scientist. It's quite important for us to know, but at the same time, we need to be realistic. The problem that we have today, and we see, back to 5, 6 years ago, we have a very ambitious target, and now we cannot achieve for many reasons. And now they are postponing 230, 235, 240, which is not good for all of us. And we know we are in energy transition. Why I said we need to be optimistic. I'm grateful for my colleague to show you the tools, because we cannot phase out tomorrow fossil fuel. The reason is simple. The chair is from oil. This is from oil. TV, many of the things here. But we need to be realistic. What else we can do? And gradually, because we are in transition, that's why 2030 is shifting to 2040 and 50, because we are not prepared ourselves enough. Therefore, I will urge and I will invite all of us to be part of this transition wisely, to share with us what we can do, but at the same time realistic, based on fact and figure. Let me turn on with another important aspect my colleague mentioned. Part of the energy transition, for the first time, we are working on a tools and app that the citizen voice and concern should be heard by policymaker. Now we are coming to COP. The decision has been decided at the top level, and then we hear the decision, we need to implement. At the same time, citizen needs to be part of it, they need to be implemented. But we know that that doesn't work, at least the experience, the evidence confirming this. Part of the EU call, EU project, we are developing a tools. As of February, will be implemented in Germany and other 12 countries in 2024. For the first time, we provide the tools that citizen, they can provide their solution, concern, their voice, part of the local SDG and community, and the policymaker that can make a decision. That's the need. And over the last 5, 6, or 10 years, we understand that the global issue doesn't work. What we have in India is different than we have in Africa. I cannot talk to people riding Tesla in Europe to the Nigeria in Africa. They don't have electricity to charge their mobile. How they can charge the Tesla to work? And that's a fact. Therefore, we come up with a localized SDG in order to enable and empower citizens. When we are talking about citizen science data, to be part of it, and that's the fact. We do not have citizen science data yet for the climate change. With these tools, we just started working on it. We are collaborating with various international organizations, particularly with UNIDO, in order to bring not only the voice of the citizen, but also bringing this to industry level as well. I would be more than happy to answer the question that you might have, but again, I would like to take the opportunity to once again say that whatever we would like to do and propose should be based on fact and figure and realization, that we are able to do that, not ambition goal that we cannot do that. Otherwise, in few years' time, we will be in much worse than situation that we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Hussein. And if you're interested to hear more about how AI is changing the scenario, please come to the side event we have at 16:45 on the 6th, on the second side event room we are organizing. And Hussein is going to be speaking there as well. Before heading it over to the bingo, the ping pong, I'm going to show you another work that from one of our collaborators, Christina, who didn't manage to be here because of the logistic issues, but she is here with us in spirit. And she is heading something called Revolution Love. So how to use the language of love for capacity building. Could you put up the second video, please?
X-ray Alpha 1, this is mission control. Roger, you're 1930.
Things are changing, but nothing changes. And still, there are changes.
A biosphere.
Thank you. Could you put up the slides again, please? So, the final bingo moment, as I said. So, Sergey is here to talk about ping pong. Let's see what they are doing.
Hello. Hello. As many of you and people here, I used to work in huge company and was like a piece of big corporate machine, and then I decided to change, and it's occasionally change some part of world around me. Yeah, can I make a next slide? Yeah, some selection. Yeah, what we did. Actually, I make some funding from friends, family, and fools, of course, and make my own startup, name it Bean Pong. It's like a beans, so they're collecting waste, and pong like a ping pong. And so it's applications that motivates people to make a proper recycle, and we rewarding them. So it's like a economically rewards for the people who make proper recycling, and we have like a sponsors who provide for this behavior some perks, discounts, and promo codes, and so on. Maybe next slide. And yeah, so, and we can put some innovations here. So first of all, AI, because everybody uses AI. AI for now, it's no startup without AI. And so we use AI for recognition of the recycling bin. For example, somebody make a photo of recycling bin, and AI can recognize is it real recycling or it's a fake, or somebody want to make some kind of scam to get more points and get more rewards, but we try to find it. And the second, we make a gamification. Gamification is a crucial point of our system, so it make more people involved and to use our application more, and it's actually like a game where you can take rewards, receive rewards, and also save your planet. So it's win-win-win. So people, like a younger population, they play these games, they make a planet cleaner, and they make rewarded from our partners, and everybody win. Okay, next slide. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, you can make also download the app. You can speak with me. I can show you, and you can join us. You can just install the app, or can be some partners or even investors. Thank you.
All right. So, as you see, the range of activities that you can involve in this process, education and empowerment, is quite broad. So, starting from the stimulations and power of AI technology to simple daily life recycling the plastics that you have and reducing the single-use plastics. So that can be everywhere. So I'm going to just quickly take you back, and then I would be opening up the session for questions and comments from you. But before that, just to take you back to the education, where basically everything starts, right? So there is something happening in Germany they call the Real Laboratory. So just to see what they are doing. The final video, please.
We are facing a young generation in anxiety about the global crises. We are facing an urgent need of especially local transformation to climate resilience and climate protection. And we are facing schools not being prepared for that at all. So we have to open them to the world.
And let them become real actors of their local transformation. In Germany, we started a pilot phase with some classes called Learning in Living Labs, Lernen im Reallabor. The Living Lab is the connection of this school class 1 day a week with an external transition actor like a farmer or a forestry manager. The teachers are kind of coaches, and the elder Living Labs are working together with African partner classes doing a similar project in agriculture or forestry, for generating a global thinking and complex understanding. A science cluster in Bavaria supports them and evaluates them in complex thinking, creative thinking, in mental health and mathematical thinking. An international expertise network, for example with the Agriculture Department of University Cape Coast, is supporting the Living Labs with real expertise and knowledge. In the current basics phase, the students are acquiring knowledge and abilities in smart planning, in brain-friendly working, outdoor with physical activities, with gestures, and in mental health by meditation and compassion techniques. After becoming experts in their minds, in their planning and their transition field, the students will invent their project together with their external partner. That might be agrophotovoltaics, that might be agroforestry or drought management or whatever, and implement it in this school year. So generate self-efficacy for themselves and for their class.
Thank you. So, as you see, so we have to fix our education system to begin with. It's not just for the sake of the environment, but if you look at the education system, there are many problems. To begin with, the soft skills that we are not earning while going through our education system. Excellent. So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes to hear from you. So if you have any questions, any comments, particularly what else do you want to see in this platform in the long game? Can we get a microphone in here? Or you just come out at the stage. Just say whatever your thoughts. Anyone? Yeah. Do you want to come up here? Oh,
Thank you. Hi, Jane Hotchkiss. I'm the head of an NGO in the US working on fusion energy, and we formed our NGO specifically to build the human capacity of understanding what fusion is, so that as it emerges as a technology, because it has the incredible capacity to, to really keep fossil where fossil belongs and to transform our energy systems, we need to be ready as a planet when fusion is ready, and we've got, they're now, we're within 5 years at least. I mean, you know, probably less than. We work with students and we work with communities. Often we see students as the path to their community, because most of us understand that in this room. The gamification is fascinating because we've been trying to think about how to use a gaming system as a method of communication. And I would love to know how the programs that are being discussed here work within the whole community, because when you activate students, when you give them knowledge, you drop down the fears, and that was my first worry, was the level of anxiety that my children have and many do. But how do you envelop the community quickly, because it's also hard for children to go home and talk about something they've learned that's important and be dismissed or ignored. So we want to make sure that the whole of the circle is included.
Thank you. Great point. I can take that question. I don't know if anyone else wanna comment on that. Just quickly, actually, at the heart of this long game is the community. Actually, the long game started after a paper I published in 2020, where we found that there is a climate action sweet spot, and that's, surprise, surprise, communities comprising 10,000 people. So what we saw that with the minimum effort, you can get the best out of it. And why are we focusing on education? Why are we focusing on schools? Because if you look at the size of the school districts that the schools cover, is basically around 10,000 people. So if we can intervene at schools, we can take the transition that is happening at school to the communities. And things are already happening. In the UK, the farmers are engaging. You saw in Germany, the farmers are engaging. So children, unfortunately, they got a heavy load on them, but they are actually being at the forefront of transformation that we have here. So yes, fully support that, and I think education will do the trick.
Oh, ladies first.
No, please go ahead. No, please go ahead. Please go ahead. So that's kind of a gender balance and gender sensitivity. Thank you. No, just to answer your question very briefly, because we work with rural communities who are not very educated or illiterate. And the thing is that one of the things that we have understood that the whole language of climate change and resilience, that needs to be mystified in their own language for their larger understanding. And only then they get engaged with you and they start understanding the context in which you are talking. So for instance, what climate change needs to somebody, for instance, if an area is waterlogged because of heavy rainfall or erratic rainfall, I might not get that much affected as the other person maybe who is more poor and vulnerable because he lives in a low-lying area. I live in a better area in the city and I have all the facilities and I am better off and all of that. So that we need to understand from his or her perspective and make him also to understand the same thing. Design interventions that can help his resilience capacities to be strengthened. And this is how we sort of first work on identifying the needs, the problems, the priorities of the local communities and design the climate change related capacity building programs around it. Thank you.
Thank you. As my sister mentioned, and also your good self about the community, the prime example that I mentioned during my talk was the society and community and citizen. That's why we said for the first time we are introducing this citizen science app, because they know better, they concern the climate issue in their area. Not only that they can raise their voice, but also proposing solution. I think that's quite important because they can tackle it much faster and they are involved. And I would like to add one more important fact here. Rather than gamification, I would like to use incentive. The system should be incentive, whatever we are doing in climate change. If I want to say don't use that and use the other one, we are talking too much about taxation and carbon footprint, but at the same time, we have to be incentive in order to bring others as well. I give you an example. I go to buy a car in Europe. For diesel, I pay, say, X. If I want to change it to electricity, the same car, I have to pay X plus a big amount. So there is no incentive for that. Therefore, people, they go and buy that. And this could be applied for many other places as well. So the system is not incentive. That's why we are not using, and at the same time, we are human. The physiology and the psychology tell us that I have this amount of money. It's better I buy this and tomorrow we'll think about something else. And we are not there in tomorrow, yeah? I think it's better I stop here. So be incentive.
We could take one more question or comment as the time allows. Anyone?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jhalak and I'm from a New Delhi-based think tank called Council on Energy, Environment and Water. So thank you so much for sharing the excellent work that you guys have been doing. I have a brief comment to make. So we are also working in the field of innovative communications and we come up with multiple products. And I just want to talk about one recent product that we've launched. It's called A Deal for Climate. I have a sample with me right now. So the idea behind this, it's a deck of cards that voices the concerns of the global south. There are interesting facts, there are interesting questions, there are interesting numbers which can act as conversation starters. So the idea behind this was to bring the conversation of climate from the margins to the mainstream, and this is something that we've been working on. The second thing I want to share was we are also working on a sustainability cartoon series called What on Earth. This has been going on for the past 1.5 years. We have over 55 plus cartoons. And this has played really well in schools and education centers where defining an important idea in a very simple way has really helped. So while there's no gamification in it, but this is also something which has really helped bringing the conversation forward. So just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great initiatives. Yep, you're welcome to join the Long Game platform. That's what we are looking for. Yeah, one final question.
I don't know whether a question or a comment, but so I'm from India, Delhi. My name is Shruti, and I work with Bharat Soka Gakai. It's a grassroots organization trying to drive behavioral change in people to live more sustainably and be mindful of everyone around us, including the environment. So the tool that you have developed involves a lot of involvement from, like, maybe the younger generation may be more attracted towards a tool like that, including the app that you have developed. And then we talked earlier about how through the school students, the parents and the community at large will perhaps get influenced, and that's how like change is gonna come by. But then there is also this one section of society which is not having, say, like younger children at home, and the elderly crowd, the boomers, if that is the right word, and they're not too adept at maybe using AI and technology and immersive experiences, and therefore, and they're hardwired in the mind in living a certain way, in misusing resources, because that's how they have lived life for the longest time. How can we really, maybe if a tool can be made or gamification for that generation can be introduced in some way through which we can also drive change there, because these are the people who are actually sitting at the top management level. These are people who are making decisions, and these are the people who make statements that phasing out fossil fuel will, kind of not reduce the global climate temperatures. So we need, how do we reach there? That's the more important question also to ponder as much as we're trying to educate the younger generation. Inclusivity and awareness and transformation at every level is extremely important, is what I feel. So,
Thank you. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so great question. And at Climate Interactive, the way we really think about it is that it takes everyone, regardless of age, across the spectrum. And so we do work a lot with educators who are working mostly at, say, age 13 and above. And the real motivation for a lot of our work, what brings us to COP and to other kind of global spaces, is using tools to engage decision makers. And we call Inroads, the simulator I showed, a decision support tool. And because it's really there, and the way I think about it is, for reaching any audience, we have to think about what resonates with them, what do they care about, what are their kind of motivations, some of their past experience that brings them to how their decision making is shaped. I showed a tool that is very data driven. It involves graphs, change over time, and all of that. That is a language that speaks for some people, and so for the people who need the graphs and need that robustness, that's where we enter in. And I fully recognize that's not everyone. And there are going to be other spaces in which you need to bring in another tool or another kind of approach and pedagogy for which to engage people, and that will be effective in a different way. And so I think when we think about engaging older audiences, younger audiences, whatever age, that is a key question that always kind of sits at the back of my mind. And I work with a computer model, but that, for some others, it may be to convene over food and share stories, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Thanks. Could you put the first slide up? So I think we're gonna wrap up. Thanks everyone for your input and for being here. It's been amazingly inspiring. As I just mentioned, when we published this paper, went through review in Science twice, and so about the climate action sweet spot, communities comprising 10,000 people. We are actually not looking for evidences back then. But after I published this paper, now I have been increasingly engaging myself with those communities actually that are working on the ground and creating more and more transformation stories. As you heard some of them on the stage, and I heard some of you from the audience. So the first one, the one before that. So when we hear the transformation story, actually there are several thought stoppers. One of the thought stopper is that we are individuals and what we do actually doesn't matter because we are a tiny part of this great universe. So that's the thought stopper. Second thought stopper is what you heard yesterday, that phasing out fossil fuel will take us back to the Stone Age. And final thought stopper, that is too late. We are missing out. So it's already too late to achieve 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius or whatever you put in. and how to change overcome those thought stoppers. So what are the thought stoppers doing? They're actually preventing you from thinking critically. They're attacking you emotionally. So when you hear that you are a tiny part of this great universe, you immediately feel paralyzed that what you do actually doesn't matter. So that can't make you creative. And how to overcome that? With those 3 points, as you see on the screen. You need self-efficacy, so believe in yourself. So what you are doing today can start a movement tomorrow. You need the action at scale, so you need to hit that sweet spot. So whatever you're doing, engage with your community. That's the sweet spot. And final thing is the active hope. So we talked about eco-anxiety, we talked about climate trauma. So to get over that, to heal climate trauma, you need hope. And hope is just not the wishful thinking. Hope is something that you are actively working for, what Yona Macy beautifully put as active hope. So if you are actively engaging something, that's why I'm here at this COP. I'm not here to listen to the presidency. I'm here to listen to you. So please reach out, engage yourself, and we will make it happen. Thank you very much.